but only for a group. I'm Tommy Lahren. Find out next.
Democrats predicted an end to high inflation, but nothing has changed. In fact, food and housing prices are still going higher. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to protect your savings from inflation by diversifying into a physical gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. To see how it works, simply text the word SHELTER to 989898, and you'll get a free info kit on gold IRAs that will explain everything. Again, that's SHELTER to 989898. There's no obligation or purchase required.
Parent company Meta announced a policy change for posting bare breast photos on the site. The oversight board will now allow these images, but only for transgender and non-binary individuals. In case you're wondering, people who identify as what they biologically are will not get the same grace, so real women are still prohibited from freeing the nipple. Meta touts this bogus rule change as progressive, inclusive, and positive, but it's really discriminatory and ridiculous. I just don't get it, folks. I thought the LGBTQ battle cry was equality, not special treatment, and you can't have both. Furthermore, it is entirely inappropriate for anyone to post their private parts on a public social media platform. Kids don't need to see trans boobs, cis boobs, or any boobs popping up on a timeline. What happened to basic decency? Is that not woke enough for Facebook? I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show Tommy Lahren is Fearless at Outkick.com.
The latest news.
The clock ticking on government funding.
Consequences for the country are a major economic crash.
The news you need to know.
Republicans and Democrats are blaming each other.
Classified information.
We will not comment.
Why was it okay to raid Mar-a-Lago?
Alec Baldwin.
So you never pulled the trigger?
I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger.
And the place to talk about it.
Limousine liberals, they're all hypocrites.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Good afternoon. Welcome into the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here at 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. It is Monday. Happy Monday, all y'all. January the 23rd, 2023, 3:33 in the PM. I'm Tim Jones. Chris Arps is here today. The gang's all back together with Katie Fitzpatrick on the wheels of steel. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good. Fantastic day outside. It's beautiful.
Nice.
Katie, I do see that you have a sweater on, and
I do.
You're a little cool in the studio.
A little
Okay.
cold. Just a little cold outside, too. I brought today is the first day that I've worn my big, puffy winter jacket. Probably not the best day for it. It's like 40 outside.
Yeah, it's nice.
But today I finally whipped out my big, puffy winter jacket. Have you both done that, or have you guys been wearing more like light jackets outside?
I don't wear jackets.
What? No jacket?
I don't.
I have lots of different little coats and jackets I wear depending on how cold it is, you know.
No jacket?
You know what? I try to spend a lot of my time in the winter in the car and between the house.
Becky Arps does not let you leave with no jacket.
Going to a restaurant or somewhere, so. Yeah.
So hoodies all year round for you?
I mean, if it gets really, really cold, I'll put on a coat. But
Tim, you've got a puffy winter jacket.
Yeah,
Come on.
I have the LL Bean one I wear a lot. What do I have today? Today I have a vest because today is pretty warm.
Warm, yeah.
So yeah, for me it's pretty warm.
Man.
So yeah, I have a vest. I have a barn coat I wear because I live in Eureka.
Yeah. Got a little barn coat going on over there.
Got a lot of barns out there.
You and me going fishing in the dark.
Yeah.
That's
now,
what Eureka is.
when I went to Wyoming, I brought everything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it was crazy. So, yeah, you know, it depends. I don't like to wear the heavy stuff, but, you know, I golf on the weekends. We've been playing through the winter because, you know, we have a little phrase, no snow, we go.
Man.
So we've been playing. We've played when it's been 35. We've played when it's 55.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Now, we may not play this weekend. It depends on what the Snowmageddon does to us tomorrow night. I hear we're under a winter weather advisory beginning tomorrow evening, hopefully after we're off the air, and continuing into Wednesday. So I know you guys are going to talk to Steve Templeton tomorrow, right?
Yes,
we're gonna
cross
get all
your fingers that it's going to be when we're
all
off the
good
air.
Details.
Yes.
But we're supposed to have some snow coming in. They're saying 3 to 6 inches potentially.
And they say, what I'm hearing, wet snow, mushy, heavy snow, whatever that means. But apparently that snow doesn't last long, with sun out and kind of 37 degrees, I'm hearing.
So maybe it'll just be a light little dusting. That's what I'm hoping for.
3 to 6 inches, but it'll be gone by 2 or 3 days later, I think.
Yeah.
Look at me playing
Look
meteorologist.
at you.
Look at that.
I didn't know you had a degree.
Stell would be proud.
Stell baby would be, yeah. Could be one of those beautiful, like, March snows where it coats all the trees and the surfaces, stays off the roadways.
That's what I'm hoping.
And then is gone in 24 hours. That would be lovely.
I love that.
Right? 24
Love
hours
that.
of a winter wonderland, and then we're all good. I know my daughters are banking on a snow day on Wednesday. Probably going to get one, because you know what? They haven't had one yet this year.
That's what I was like, this is our second snow. If this happens and we get the snow and it's not just rain, this will be the second snow that we've had all winter. I think that's pretty a good success story.
Yeah.
I mean, for Missouri.
Global warming, global climate change. I mean, you heard Al Gore and the rest of us
Last week.
Yeah. So it's true.
Global warming.
Friend of mine who is retired and has a lot of time to do, he's a very brilliant guy, and so he reads and researches all the time. He listens to our station throughout the day. So hello, Bill.
Hello,
Bill may be listening to us this afternoon. He was telling us over the weekend that we are in the third year of a La Nina cycle. And what that means is he said it's usually a 3-year cycle, and then we go back into the El Nino. And that has to do with the Pacific Ocean currents.
Okay.
And he said La Nina means slightly warmer, slightly wetter winters.
Okay.
Well,
yeah,
that's
adds
kind of
up.
what we're having,
Yep,
right?
adds up.
And he said next year we likely go back into the other pattern where we have maybe slightly cooler, but slightly drier. So we may get a little more snow next year because it'll be colder.
Man, I whatever we're doing, the El Nina, La Nina,
La
Nina, she can stay.
Yeah.
This is a great winter for me. I mean, I feel like it hasn't really been that cold.
It's been
mild.
I mean, I can deal with
It's been
this. I mean,
moderate.
we've had some cold spells, but
Not too bad.
generally it's been nice.
I say let La Nina stay.
Or El Nino next time.
No El Nino.
That's what listener Bill told me
Thank
over the
you, Bill.
weekend. So we'll see what happens. We've got 2 fantastic guests this afternoon. In addition to all of our other segments, we'll have former U.S. Senator Jim Talent. Lots to talk to the senator about, from the document debacle of Joe Biden, which reared its head again over the weekend. Chris's Corner, also in the 4 o'clock hour. The Speaker's Stump Speech in the 5 o'clock hour. And Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor of Red State. And we'd love to talk to you throughout the afternoon as well. If you'd like to give us a holler, 314-912-1019. 314-912-1019. Chris, I heard you and Tony talking a little football as we were coming in the studio before we went back on the air. Did any of you watch the Chiefs game at all on Saturday?
Yeah, I watched some of it.
That segment of the game when Patrick Mahomes got all entangled in about 4 players and his legs went in opposite directions, I could hear Chiefs Nation all go, oh! But luckily he came back and he had a sprain.
What an all-star he is.
The guy's amazing.
Yeah, he's going to be in pain, though, next week, though. That's not something you come back from after a week. But Patrick Mahomes at 80% is
on one leg
is compared to other quarterbacks is they're 110%.
Yeah, and the Cowboys did not make it to another round.
They did not make it. I'm disappointed, but I'm not shocked. I have to say, honestly.
We'll continue to talk a little bit about that and all of the other news you may have missed while you were working away here on a Monday. Got a full week this week, no holidays this week, so we'll be with you every single day. We'll be right back to continue to break down everything that may have happened throughout the day and prepare you for the show ahead when we come back here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show at 101.9 94.1. This is News Talk STL.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your First Alert forecast. And Tuesday night into Wednesday is a First Alert weather day due to snow, 3 to 6 inches. It's going to be an absolute mess, especially between about midnight and noon on Wednesday. Snow will turn lighter and taper off in the afternoon. But we're dry tonight, low down to 31, 44 in the afternoon on Tuesday. Starts off as a little rain Tuesday evening, switching over to snow Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Low of 33, so it's going to snow heavy enough to overcome the melting. It'll be a wet, heavy, slushy snow in the afternoon, snow tapering off in a high of 37 for Wednesday. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here. Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Are you the type of person who loves their community and wants it to be the best it can be? Now it's easier than ever to do your part. Go to recyclemode.com to see just how easy it is to recycle the right way. Or if you already recycle and want to be as efficient as possible, recyclemode.com can tell you what should and should not be recycled in your area. Become part of the clean recycling movement today. It's the right thing to do. Sponsored by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources.
Hey, Colombo here for Zero Res, a company that we have relied on many times to save our home. And it doesn't matter if it's carpets, tile, rugs, upholstery. Basically, every surface in your home can be Zero Resified. And right now, to start 2023, if you book a cleaning in the month of January and mention the Colombo Special, you'll get 23% off all services. Call and book now. Tell them you want the Colombo Special, 314-474-2020, or book online at ZeroResSTL.com. Spell it forward or backward, it spells the same, Zero Res.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
How can police protect us when politicians around here keep sticking them in the back? We're talking about that and what it means to you on Tuesday's program.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Owned or used by President Biden in the past?
So the president's personal lawyers and DOJ are in communication, and they're making sure that they're coordinated on the next steps of this investigation. Look, we're going to be really careful not to talk about potential future steps and developments in the investigation itself, because we respect the independence of DOJ to conduct this thoroughly and fairly on their own accord. And so I'm just not going to get ahead of that process in questions like that.
Okay, so there's a possibility.
Welcome back. What's
there's a possibility.
Who was that?
Oh, you know who it was.
Was that Mika?
It was Mika and Joe. Goo Goo Gaga.
You know, that is such a BS answer because, one, and the same question was asked at a press conference recently to KGP, is how many documents have been recovered at Joe Biden's residence and at the think tank. And they're acting like that's classified information that will somehow jeopardize the investigation by giving the exact amount of documents that have been found. I mean, Tim, you're the legal mind here, and the Justice Department has said that they can answer this. But, I mean, do they have any legal leg to stand on, or is this just gobbledygook?
I think they are bending themselves into every form of pretzel you can imagine. I mean, if any of you watch the Sunday shows, and I do not blame you if you did not, because it makes your brain bleed. They were like, what's the game? Twister, right? It was like watching a real live version of Twister, listening to Chuck Todd and Martha Raddatz and Snuffleupagus, and the rest of them try to explain why this is different than the Trump situation.
Yeah.
I think it's worse.
Yeah.
I think it is different now. I think it's worse.
I think so too.
And we were talking about this last week. They're slowly shifting away from the argument that this is different and this is not as bad. Now they're trying to say, well, everything is classified in Washington now, and everyone has classified documents, and everyone, I heard the argument the other day on one of the MSNBC shows said that people classify things on purpose so that whatever they want to be read by their boss or their president will get read because it's quote, unquote, classified. So that's how they're trying to dumb it down now. It's like, oh, it's no big deal. But the same comparisons weren't used during the whole Trump situation, and that's what shows their glaring hypocrisy.
Of course not. When Trump had his situation, it was, oh my goodness, maybe it's the nuclear. Remember how they were just guessing? We still don't know what the Trump documents were, but everybody was, oh, maybe it's the nuclear codes.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the secret of the universe. Maybe it's the Russian buried treasure, And with Biden, like you said, Chris, everybody's got that classified rubber stamp. They just go classified happy in Washington, D.C. Maybe we shouldn't worry about classified documents anymore. And I completely agree with everyone, including ourselves, who has suggested that this is the Democratic deep state trying to make sure that Joe Biden doesn't run in 2024.
And the newest headache now that Joe Biden has about this investigation is the documents that they found over the weekend, or that they revealed over the weekend, were documents that occurred while he was a United States senator. And it's like, the question now is, how in the world did a United States senator end up with classified documents at his home and other places? And it harkens back to Sandy Berger, who worked for Bill Clinton, who went into a skiff and ended up stealing documents that were detrimental to Bill Clinton's presidency. He ended up getting a slap on the wrist and some type of fine. But it makes you ask the question, Tim, what are in those documents that Joe Biden doesn't want the government and us to see while he was vice president and while he was a senator? Do these documents detail the quote-unquote Biden crime family with him and his brothers, influence peddling, now with Hunter? Do the things that he was holding on from the Senate to the vice president, do they detail that?
Does it connect?
That's the question.
Does it connect all the dots? And isn't it interesting, and isn't it also slightly aggravating, that when the Trump classified documents situation all, became the talk of the town, the media was asking all those questions about, how did they get there? What documents are they? What's in them? With this situation, there's zero intellectual curiosity. It's kind of like we're starting in the middle and we're just supposed to move forward. You just made a really great point about the SCIF documents. And then someone else made a point earlier today. The documents that were found at the Biden Penn Center. The Penn Center didn't open up until 2018.
Right.
Joe Biden left office in 2016. So the 2017, in January of 2017. So the documents went from the vice president's possession in Washington, D.C. to somewhere.
For a year. And
then went from somewhere to the Biden Penn Center.
Yeah.
And then secondly, the SCIF that you brought up. SCIF documents. A SCIF is a room that is set up so you can look at classified documents. And they have white noise machines, and they have jamming devices, and no one's supposed to be able to penetrate that room.
Oh.
You can't take anything. Your phone has to stay outside. You
Correct.
can't take anything with you inside.
A skiff can be a permanent skiff, so like the West Wing, of course, probably has several of them in the Oval Office, and a skiff can also be temporarily set up in a remote location, okay? So the allegation is that Biden had some classified skiff documents. Well, how did they get out of the skiff and into his possession? Nobody. We're asking these questions. A lot of people like us are asking these questions, but nobody on MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, none of them are asking these questions. They're just trying to compare it to the Trump situation. They're trying to downplay it, and they're trying to move on.
Yeah, and we can all guess how it happened. I mean, Joe Biden was elected a senator in 1972, I think. So he was a senator for close to 50 years. By the time he was stealing these documents, he was also head of the Judiciary Committee, head of the Intelligence Committee. So if Senator Biden goes to a skiff, steals some documents, puts them down his pants, are they really going to check him?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because of who he is.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one's going to Senator, could we do a strip search of you, sir, and make sure that
real quick
yeah.
Make sure.
And look, there may be, like Chris said, I think they go classified happy in D.C. There may be nothing in these documents that's really that meaningful, and maybe the Records Act needs some reform. But if you're going to light your hair on fire about Donald Trump and having classified documents, then you have to do it about Joe Biden, or you have to say, forget about it, and let's not worry about this, and we really shouldn't have made a big deal about Trump either. Let's all move on.
Yeah, my conspiracy theory hat is just so blazing right now. We see the drip, drip, drip of this investigation. A few days lax. We start wondering, is this it? Are there any more documents? And then you get a document dump, basically, on a Friday afternoon after the news cycle of him having documents, top secret classified documents while a United States senator. That's like the cherry on top of all the other drip, drip, drip releases of that. It's like now he's got documents as a senator. How in the world did he get these? I mean, it's...
And isn't it more that whenever we look at the reaction to Trump and we look at the reaction to Biden, conservatives, even from the beginning with Trump, were saying, like, if this is really bad and these documents are bad, let them be revealed. Let the documents, let us see what's in these documents. Let them be revealed. If he shouldn't have had them, he shouldn't have had them. If he had the right to have them, then so be it. But the reaction was more towards how the process went down, how the FBI raided, how Donald Trump got the Mar-a-Lago home, their door kicked down. That was the real outrage coming from the conservatives, is the process. It wasn't necessarily like you shouldn't have classified documents and we'll see what's in them. I feel like everybody said that. And we're saying the same thing for Biden. I think the question is, why was the process so different? Whereas for Democrats, they lit their hair on fire, as you said, Tim, at the idea of Trump having the nuclear codes in these classified documents. How dare he? This is outrageous, an uproar. Yeah. And now with Biden, Nancy Pelosi's going on MSNBC saying, no big deal. We just need to see what's going on in these documents. It's all totally fine.
I tell you, in my opinion, this newest revelation that Biden had documents from the time he was United States Senator means that this story is not going away anytime soon. And I think it's going to pique the curiosity of the media that already kind of smells blood in the water. And they're going to be actually doing, it's not going to be, a quick thing, but they're going to slowly start piecing this thing together because, my God, Stevie Wonder, Ray Orbison, anybody can see, can
the writing on the wall.
Put writing on the wall, can piece these dots together of what's going on here.
Where's the raid? Where's the raid? I want to know where the raid is at this point. This is the fifth. So over the last 2 weeks, we've had 5 instances where we have woken up in the morning to the news that they have found yet more documents in one of Joe Biden's places that he occupies.
I think, and I'm not trying to defend the Biden administration so much, but I think they can make the argument that, look, all the stuff that is being found, we are turning it over. This last search, the FBI was there along with our attorneys. So I think they would make that argument that, hey, we're turning everything over. Yeah, we know it's jacked up, that it's been held for years, but we're being cooperative.
If Joe Biden was not Joe Biden, if he was Rudy Giuliani, for instance, or maybe even just Joe or Jane American, I can almost guarantee you a search warrant would have been obtained right now by a judge. There is probable cause to believe that once you have 5 sets of documents, you may have more. And if this was any other American, there would have been a raid on all of their property at this point in time. But because it's Joe Biden, I do agree there's a difference. He is a sitting president. And it does make me nervous. I don't care who it is, Republican, Democrat, that we're now going to start raiding presidents. But on the other hand, they did it to a former president. I don't think a former president had ever had their property raided before by law enforcement until Donald Trump.
And that's what I think that's the scary part, is that it was because it was Donald Trump that it was raided. I think that's the...
And because he's Joe Biden, he will not be raided.
Right. It's not I don't want presidents raided either. I think that whole thing was absolutely astounding and just so bad for our country. But the idea of having it raided because it was Donald Trump is...
Tim, address
scary.
the liberals' argument, though, because they'll say what I just said, that Trump was not being cooperative. They had to do subpoenas and all that. And I'm just saying, defend their argument. Basically, what they're saying is I lost my train of thought.
Okay, do you want me to defend?
Not defend their argument of the
rebut.
saying. Rebut their argument.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Can we do it when we come back?
Yeah.
Oh, because we're out of time.
We are out of time.
We will.
Boy, I couldn't get my thoughts there. Yeah, rebut their argument.
It's a great question, and I think I do have a discernible point on that. Well, we've got lots to talk about today, including the fact that yet another conspiracy theory, the Vic Porcelli principle, was proven true again today with some breaking news about Russian collusion. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about. And Jim Tallent's going to help us digest all of it at 4:25. If you'd like to give us a call about any of this, we'd be happy to talk to you next as well. 314-912-1019 when we come back here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show at 1019-94.1 News Talk STL.
They never told you the price that you pay for the things that you might have done. Only the good die young.
It's Proctor spelled like doctor for custom window fabrics and shutters. Upgrade or start from scratch. Either way, Michael is the St. Louis expert. Check him out at proctordrapery.com and then call Proctor spelled like doctor for shutters, shades, and draperies.
Proctor Drapery, the best in town. No finer window fashion can be found. Call for an appointment at your home. Spell Proctor like doctor.
Hi, I'm Dr. Alan Link. Your smile is your #1 asset.
I was in a car accident. My front tooth cracked. I'm definitely embarrassed to smile. I got mini dental implants. It changed my life.
If you are missing one or more teeth or suffer from loose dentures, mini dental implants might be the solution for you. I have placed mini implants with amazing results. Mini dental implants are less invasive, less painful, and your recovery time is much shorter. Let me give you your self-confidence back and give you the ability to eat the foods that you love to eat, but that you simply can't at this point. Plus, best of all, the cost to you is much less than with older, more traditional dental implants.
It made me feel like me. Like I can smile and feel like Ashley. Just want to say thank you.
We are here to help you at the Dental Link.
Call Dr. Alan Link today at 314-794-6464 to schedule your free consultation. Offices in Baldwin and Melville. That's the Dental Link at 314-794-6464.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Hour from townhall.com, I'm Keith Peters reporting. The search for the motive behind the shooting massacre at a Los Angeles area ballroom dance hall led police to a mobile home community in Hemet, California. Authorities say Hu Can Tran killed 10 people at a Monterey Park dance hall and attempted a shooting later at another club before taking his own life. The alleged shooter lived in Hemet. President Biden has signed a proclamation honoring the victims of the mass shooting in Monterey Park.
The president offered his thoughts and prayers to those affected by the deadly shooting. He directed the federal government to support local and state authorities, and he signed a proclamation in the victims' honor, ordering flags to be lowered at the White House and all public buildings and lands through sunset on Thursday.
White House correspondent Greg Clugston. Democratic Congressman Ruben Gallego has announced he'll challenge independent U.S. Senator Kyrsten Sinema in 2024. Bob Agnew reports.
Gallego becomes the first candidate to jump into the race, and by doing so has set up a potential three-way contest, something that could benefit Republicans. Sinema left the Democrat Party back.
We'll return to that story in a few minutes. Elon Musk returned to federal court Monday in San Francisco to testify in a class action lawsuit filed by Tesla investors, alleging he misled them with a tweet. And we'll have more of those stories in just a moment.
Dennis Prager here. Sue and I mean it. Dogs are part of our family. We love Otto and Snoopy so much. There's nothing quite like their loyal companionship. So we provide them with Rough Greens. In fact, I just talked to my wife about it because we want them to be healthy and we want them to be with us as long as possible. That's true. I know Sebastian Gorka feels the same way.
The Pragers and I couldn't agree more. Our pups, Killian and Leia, rely on us to provide what's best for them. And naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black has packed Rough Greens full of vitamins, minerals, digestive enzymes, omega oils, and more that supplement their food in a way that has shown us great results. Trying out Rough Greens is an easy yes, recommended by me, Dr. G.
Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here, and I'm so proud that the Pragers and Sebastian Gorka have entrusted their dog's health to Rough Greens. I'm so confident that Rough Greens can help your dog, I'm offering you a free Jumpstart trial bag. Just cover the shipping. Yes, your dog's food is dead food, but you can bring it back to life with Rough Greens. Go to ruffgreens.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your First Alert forecast. And Tuesday night into Wednesday is a First Alert weather day due to snow, 3 to 6 inches. It's going to be an absolute mess, especially between about midnight and noon on Wednesday. Snow will turn lighter and taper off in the afternoon. But we're dry tonight, low down to 31, 44 in the afternoon on Tuesday. Starts off as a little rain Tuesday evening, switching over to snow Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Low of 33, so it's going to snow heavy enough to overcome the melting. It'll be a wet, heavy, slushy snow in the afternoon, snow tapering off in a high of 37 for Wednesday. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
How is your car payment treating you? What if I told you you could make a free phone call right now and reduce your car payment by as much as $83 a month? Look at your car payment closely. You could be paying as high as 20% interest. Rate Genius can help you reduce your car payments by reducing your interest rate to as low as 2.48% APR. We can refinance most existing car loans or leased cars, new or used, and save you money every month. Put more money back in your pocket. The call is free to find out how low we can lower your car payment. 5 minutes of your time right now could save you hundreds of dollars a year. Call Rate Genius now.
800-764-2179. 800-764-2179. 800-764-2179. That's 800-764-2179.
Not all applicants qualify for a loan or rate savings. Actual offer terms, including APR, are determined at the time of your application based on creditworthiness, value of the vehicle, loan term, and other factors.
Welcome home to St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
We're executing a comprehensive strategy to secure our borders.
101.9 and 94.1.
He takes this very seriously when it comes to classified documents.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
And as for President Biden, it's a portrait instability, not necessarily a good one. We're seeing his leadership underwater on a range of issues around the economy, inflation, crime, far more than that even. But it's basically where it's been now for months and months, since well before the midterms. His approval of his handling of the economy, only 38%. It was 37% back in August. So that hasn't changed. Perceptions of President Biden seem pretty locked in.
Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show, the 4 o'clock hour here on a wonderful sunny Monday afternoon here in the Heartland. You're at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. The Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show rolls on this hour with Senator Jim Talent at 425 and Chris's Corner at 445.
You know, the unfortunate thing for Joe Biden, before this big story broke about these documents being found at his residence and at this think tank, is he had one of the highest approval ratings he had enjoyed since October of 2021. It was up to 44%. The couple of weeks prior, you had Republicans in the House arguing with each other, taking 15 rounds to choose a president or a speaker. The Democrats were voting for the same person over and over and over. There was not the red wave that everyone thought there was going to be. Even though we don't agree with any of it, they did pass a number of legislative accomplishments last year. Should be going good. And this scandal just came out of the blue, and it's been like a bowling ball going down the alley towards the pins. And I don't know if I'd call this a strike, but
it's a good spare.
Yeah, it was a good.
It's a good spare, right?
It's a good spare.
Bowling analogy there. Do you guys like bowling?
I do.
I do too.
It.
I don't play it as much as I actually like it a lot, and I hardly ever play. I think it's a fun sport game, whatever you want to call it.
I love it.
I'd like to do it more, but Becky doesn't like bowling because it hurts her wrist. But,
yeah, my husband doesn't like bowling because he's not very good at it.
Yeah.
Neither am I. But something about a nice, cheap pitcher of beer, greasy
food,
some
wings.
Yeah, I love it.
Some
it's
fried
so fun.
cheese.
Yeah. There's corny music playing about.
Them goofy bowling shoes.
Yes. Give me all of it. Love it all.
And now they've got the cosmic bowling.
Yes,
and all that.
it's so fun.
I don't know what kind of bowler I am. I've never really paid attention. I guess I'm an average bowler like everybody else. I have a friend who is like, he could have gone to the PBA. He's that good.
My gosh.
He also pitched for the Yankees for a while. This guy, this friend Corey, he's now an assistant pro down at the golf course I play at. But he's like one of these guys that like you're like, dude, like, why aren't you in like a big? Why aren't you like?
Yeah, big time.
He can bowl 300, no problem.
What?
He pitched in the minors for the Yankees, and he's one of those guys. He's got that lower. His legs are the size of my waist. You know what I mean? He's just tree trunks.
Bowling a 300
all the time. Yeah.
If you're a kid of the 70s, you remember ABC with Chris Schenkel. They always used to have the PBA bowling tour, and it would be in the winter, so you couldn't go outside. And it was cold, and St. Louis has a rich history of bowling. The Weber family, a bunch of them. And I just remember all the great names of the past, Earl Anthony and all of them. So probably last year with COVID and everything, I tuned into the PBA bowling tour on ESPN, and I saw these guys bowling with two hands, arms.
What?
And it was they're like,
no.
And that's how people bowl now. And people are bowling. People are professional bowlers now.
Like that?
They hold it with two hands next to them, and they throw it down the lane with two hands, with both arms. And that is a style of bowling now. It almost blew me away. I was like, what is he doing? You can't do that. And these guys, the best bowler in the world, he's got a Hispanic name, but he's from Australia. That's how he bowls. And he's the best bowler in the world right now.
What about a granny bowl? Are you both into the
That's
granny
what
bowl?
that's what it almost looks like.
That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right.
The little granny bowl?
So, to your point, the Pro Bowlers Hall of Fame was in St. Louis until recently.
So they moved it out about 10 years ago.
I had to look it up. I had no idea where it went. It's in Arlington, Texas.
Oh, I moved to Texas. I should have visited there when I was there a few months back. I didn't know. It was right by the Busch Stadium.
Yeah, right across the street from Busch, yeah. So I don't know how we got down that rabbit hole. But, Chris, you asked a really good question before the break. About
my question was, you talk about the comparison between Trump and Biden and the argument the media will use that Trump was uncooperative. It took years of getting that material back. Biden will say that, look, we're turning everything over, even though we've had it for years. How do you refute that argument? Because I think the public is kind of dumbed down and will buy that.
Sure. So here's what I would say. And, like Katie said, I get nervous when we're rating the homes of presidents or even former presidents. I don't like that that's even a thought we need to have. But the problem is the Democrats and the left, they started this, right? So now here we are.
As always.
So let's say I put on my old prosecutor's hat, and let's say I'm investigating not Joe Biden, but I'm investigating Mike Smith, okay? And Mike Smith works for the government, and turns out that Mike Smith's lawyers find that he inadvertently, allegedly, has a manila folder with some classified documents at his office, and they turn those over. And then they find another set of documents at his home. And then they find another set of documents at his vacation home. And then I'm brought into the case to investigate this as a prosecutor. Okay, if I'm told that Mike Smith has, quote, allegedly inadvertently found 3 sets of classified documents in 3 different locations, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be applying for a search warrant, and I will guarantee you that a judge will agree with me that there is, at the very minimum, probable cause to believe that maybe Mike Smith is turning over all the documents, or maybe he isn't turning all over the documents, or maybe he's forgotten where he's put all the documents. And so I now need to go in and I need to collect Mike Smith's files, and I need to collect his computer, and I need to collect his zip drives, and I need to collect everything else at all these locations. So even if Mike Smith is honestly trying to cooperate with the authorities, as a prosecutor, I don't know if Mike Smith really is being completely above board, and maybe he's forgotten where he's put some of these documents. So I'm going to ask for a search warrant, and I will bet you that I can prove probable cause to a judge to give me one, because you only need a very, very low standard of probable cause to get a search warrant to get all the evidence that may be gotten before somebody destroys it. So that's my argument. Now that Joe Biden has mysteriously, after 6.5 years, come up with all these documents, and Chris, it'd be one thing if there was one box in one location in a locked file cabinet. Why do they keep finding these things all over hither and yon? Nice. Doesn't it sound bizarre? And especially the one that's in the back of the garage behind the Corvette that Hunter Biden borrows. Yeah, it's just so weird.
Yeah, it's bizarre, and like I said, it makes you wonder, does it have to do with the influence peddling of Joe Biden's brothers and Hunter that they were involved in? Is this evidence implicating them in these crimes? Who knows?
So, Chris, I agree with you. They're not going to raid Joe Biden, but if he was not Joe Biden, if he was not the sitting president of the United States and he was just some Joe Schmo, he would have been raided by now. They would have gone in and said, look, dude, we appreciate the fact that you're trying to cooperate, but we just can't take it on your word that you're just voluntarily finding all these documents day after day after day. We got to have everything. I'm sorry. We're going to go in. Just, you know what? Just like they did with Rudy Giuliani. Well, after Rudy Giuliani had the Hunter Biden laptop, they went in and they raided Rudy Giuliani's office and his home.
You don't think the Biden administration could make a case to the American people that why are we being raided when we're turning over everything voluntarily, even though we are finding them later, but we're turning everything over? Why are you raiding us?
I think they can make that case, and then the American people can be told, do you really believe that Joe Biden remembers anything at this point in time? He said, I don't know how those documents got there.
He did say that.
So because he doesn't know, then let's say they're able to prove that Biden had no culpability, that some staffer took all these documents and well, then Joe Biden then doesn't know what he has or what he doesn't have. And so they need to go in and they need to get everything, because Joe Biden is now telling us, I don't remember how these documents got in all these places.
I guess my question to both of you is, what happens now? So we're understanding that every other day there's been a dump of classified documents being found at different areas that are connected with Joe Biden, that are connected with the Biden family. We have an administration that is saying we're cooperating and we can't talk about it right now, but the DOJ is involved and we have to wait for the investigation. We're going to have maybe something that shows redacted information from these documents. Maybe it won't. Maybe we'll never know what the classified documents are. But what happens next for the Democratic Party? Because, Tim, on break, you said this. It's not just bad for Biden and that look, but it's bad for the brand. And I think the Democratic Party in its entirety as a whole, when you see these people who advocated so feverishly to get rid of Trump because he's this corrupt person and then voted for someone who is more corrupt than the day is long, how do they build that brand back up so that the American people can trust the Democratic Party again, even though they persuaded you to vote for this person that's been so corrupt?
I think you're seeing the beginning of it right now. Even though they are standing by Joe Biden, you're starting to see some cracks in the wall of protecting him. Dick Durbin, some of the journalists now, the treatment that you see of KJP questioning her integrity. Now, I think they see the blood in the water. They smell the blood in the water, and I think they're waiting for the next shoes to drop on this.
I can't disagree with that. I think you've got the Biden faithful who will be trotted out to continue to defend him. But as Chris pointed out, there's plenty of people who are kind of the Democratic Party's kind of playing devil's advocate with itself right now. And so there's plenty of people going, yeah, maybe not Biden in 2024. And so now, Katie, you've got two competing investigations, one of the former president, one of the current president, on a very, very, very similar subject. And, Chris, it looks like the Democrats are trying to convince Biden he can't run, but nobody's going to tell Donald Trump that he can't run. Yeah. So you may have Biden not running in 24 and Trump running, which wouldn't that be a weird twist of fate?
You just have to look at all of the former Obama administration people that are in the inner circle of Joe Biden's decision-making body. And that, to me, tells you a lot of what you need to know, that Barack Obama is the one that's really pulling the strings behind in this White House. You hear reports that even though Barack Obama liked him personally, he thought he was a mess up. That's a polite way. I could say another word, and that he was not ready for prime time to be president. And that's why he wouldn't come out and endorse him, if you remember that, throughout the primary. So I think the Democratic deep state, with Obama pulling the strings, is orchestrating the removal of Joe Biden right before our very eyes.
Continuing that thread, would you address the importance, the relevance, the significance of Ron Klain, the chief of staff? We talked about this in the break as well. Ron Klain, Biden's chief of staff, quietly departing the White House over the weekend.
Yeah, Ron Klain was a trusted advisor of President Biden. He was his chief of staff, who's basically the gatekeeper to the president. You don't see the president unless you get by him first. Ron Klain was chosen because he had a in with the progressives within the Democratic Party. They trusted him, and he was brought in as kind of a liaison between the progressives and the White House, because they didn't necessarily trust Joe Biden. If you remember, they thought that he was a crotchety old man. But he is leaving. It is not uncommon for chiefs of staff to leave within the first 2 years. It's a very strenuous job. But what I find very curious is his leaving now after the discovery of these documents that were found that occurred while Biden was a senator. For him to choose, this is my time to go, says a lot to me.
Significant point covered here and hardly anywhere else. We're going to get ready for a break here in a second. I do, Chris, there's a bunch of folks chiming in on our Facebook page today. And hello to Amy and Scotty and Matt. And Matt, Chris, had a really good point, something we can discuss with Jim Talent. Matt found some of the breaking news this afternoon where an FBI agent who was allegedly investigating Trump for Russian collusion has just been arrested.
He's actually on line right now.
Matt's on the line?
Yes, he's on. He's
oh,
on.
look at that. Matt's like multimedia. Hello, Matt. Matt, good afternoon. Welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. We were just talking about your Facebook comment before we went to break.
Yeah, I can hear you. Good afternoon. I was seeing if you guys, I'm sure you have a plan set out for your show, but as I was just scrolling around different social medias, that information come out. Charles McGonigal, who is the lead investigator or mostly in charge of the false Russian collusion with Trump, has now just been investigated for illegal ties to Russia.
You can't make it up, Matt, can you?
You can't. It's unbelievable. Everything they charge Trump with, they are guilty of, and it's becoming more true with every day that goes by. There's honest. I can't find out who arrested them or how or why, but there's obviously honest people out there in the DOJ, in the halls, in the basements that are coming out and getting these people one by one slowly. I mean, it gives me a little bit of faith because I've had none about all this.
Excellent. Matt, thank you very much for calling and for watching us and following us on Facebook. We appreciate it.
Yeah, keep up the great work. I really appreciate everything you guys do. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Wow. Another one. We've had a lot of great new callers over the last few weeks.
We do.
Well, we've got lots to discuss with Senator Jim Talent, don't we? All the topics we just discussed and likely more. You're not going to want to miss one of the best segments, if not the best segment of the week, and that's why we kick it off here on a Monday. Former U.S. Senator, Chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council, Jim Talent, will join Chris and I when we return right in just a few minutes here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to News Talk STL.
Don't get brazen with me.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your First Alert forecast. And Tuesday night into Wednesday is a First Alert weather day. Due to snow, 3 to 6 inches, it's going to be an absolute mess, especially between about midnight and noon on Wednesday. Snow will turn lighter and taper off in the afternoon. But we're dry tonight, low down to 31, 44 in the afternoon on Tuesday. Starts off as a little rain Tuesday evening, switching over to snow Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Low of 33, so it's going to snow heavy enough to overcome the melting. It'll be a wet, heavy, slushy snow in the afternoon, snow tapering off in a high of 37 for Wednesday. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hi, I'm Jen Wallner.
And I'm Rodney Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Rodney, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission rate?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
When's the best time to sell your home?
Right now. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
When is a financial help show not just a financial help show? When it's Pocket Watching with JT, the caller-driven financial talk show focused on helping you get your money right. Jason Thornton is a certified financial planner licensed in both tax and investments. You get JT's real reaction to all your money and business questions. Plus, you get JT's take on all the latest financial news. This is not just another financial show. Pocket Watching with JT now every Friday night at 8 p.m. on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Do you own an annuity, either fixed rate, indexed, or variable? Are you paying high fees and getting low returns? If so, Annuity General would like you to have this free book to learn the pitfalls and mistakes of buying an annuity. The Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers contains the little-known truths about annuities, like how to help reduce your fees and increase retirement income. And it's free. That's right, free. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report just for calling. We researched over 1,000 annuities and summarized rates and benefits from financially strong insurers. You get Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers and the Annuity Rate Report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today. Hurry, supplies are limited. Call now.
800-649-8619. 800-649-8619. 800-649-8619. That's 800-649-8619.
I'm Susie Moore, and this is More to the Point.
I've never held a security clearance, so I've never been tasked with handling classified material. Still, after practicing law for nearly 30 years, I'm more than well acquainted with the concepts of secrecy and confidentiality, and the importance of not disclosing or mishandling sensitive information you become privy to as part of your job. In the practice of law, the attorney-client privilege acts as a figurative moat around information a client shares with their attorneys in confidence. Violating that trust is a no-go zone. For one, while it generally carries no criminal penalties, it can certainly get you brought up on ethics violations and put your law license in peril. And from a practical standpoint, it's a poor business practice. Clients aren't going to want to retain a lawyer they can't trust to keep confidences. Joe Biden is a lawyer, rumor has it. He's also been a public official with varying levels of security clearance for almost as long as I've been alive. In short, he should be well versed in the importance of handling sensitive information. And yet, he's seemingly been decidedly careless with it, and we're going back several years. Barack Obama reportedly once said, "Don't underestimate Joe's ability to bleep things up." Perhaps someone should have taken heed of that when doling out security clearance to the big guy.
Susie Moore is Deputy Managing Editor for RedState.com. For more to the point and everything Susie Moore, log on to RedState.com. Follow Susie on Twitter @SmoozyQ and keep listening to 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
I think they're trying to attack the American people.
Live and local.
Gabe, Mike, Ken, you guys are my morning cup of mental coffee. I love the show. Definitely a convert from the old one.
This is News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Tried to knit together a quilt that includes Hunter Biden, these classified documents, as Chair Comer said on PBS the other night, influence peddling by the Biden administration. Is that something, this effect to connect the dots that way, would that be an investigation that the administration would take seriously?
Well, we'll see what they're going to do. I mean, I think that they can say a lot, put out a lot of press releases, do a lot of media interviews, but we'll take a look at the letters that they send. We'll take a look at their actual investigative actions, and we'll respond to the Congress as appropriate. I think that it's just very clear that a lot of these things are rooted in false conspiracy theories.
Except, Chris, hasn't every conspiracy theory had a bad habit of coming true over the last 18 months?
Especially when it was involving Republicans and Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Let's bring in our next guest. He's an expert on so many things. We'll ask him about that and lots more.
Former U.S. Senator Jim Talent and chairman of the Reagan Institute. Jim, you got the tux all pressed and ready to go up there on the Upper East Side?
I'm watching this and just wondering, who's running the show. The political logic behind it escapes me, and I've stopped looking for three-dimensional chess. I just think they don't know what they're doing.
And now, former Senator Jim Talent.
I just realized how appropriate Jim's open was for today. Jim, you've got to be wondering today, who is running the show at the White House? And they sure don't seem like they know what they're doing with the documents debacle or much of anything else at the beginning of this year, do they?
Well, yeah, I particularly with regard, I agree about the issue with much of anything else. If you look at what's happening with the border and what's happening with crime and so many other areas of policy, yes, but the new stuff, or the relatively new stuff, is of course the documents. And the president continues to insist that he takes all this, very seriously, but also that there's no there when anybody asks him any questions about it. Well, if you take it seriously, you should be really upset about the fact that there are classified documents in how many places now have they found them?
Four or five. Yeah, we're getting up there.
Yeah, you need one of you guys. You need to detail somebody to keep track of it.
Exactly. We'll whiteboard it. Yeah, and the studio.
Yeah, because the list is growing. And, I don't know if we've talked exactly about this, but I'll just tell you that this is not the normal culture or norm or regimen that people in Washington, I'm talking about office holders, follow with regard to classified information. I mean, you can't serve there without realizing that you are supposed to take secrecy and security very, very seriously. Because in any kind of an official meeting or anything where you're handling classified documents, the procedures taken to protect them are evident to everybody. I mean, I used to, dislike those committee meetings when we were handling classified documents because they were closed, of course, and you'd get the documents and then you turn them back in, and if you took any notes, you had to turn the notes back in. And so if there was something you wanted to remember, you had to go back to the SCIF to check your notes, which I never did because I wasn't going to have them keeping notes and then go running back over the Capitol. So anyway, the point is everybody involved in this system knows that this is supposed to be taken seriously.
Senator, we're getting all these documents that are coming out first. The documents were from when he was vice president. Now we've got these documents over the weekend that show he was receiving documents as a senator. I have to ask you, are there any classified documents in Jim Talent's attic, basement, or garage?
Well, no.
And how does that happen that a senator has classified documents in his possession?
In my office. My office was not a SCIF. It was not a place where you could take classified documents, and I only saw them when I went to particular meetings. Now, I did a column on this when it all broke with Hillary Clinton many years ago. And if you had this stuff on your email the way she did, which, as I said in the last interview, is much worse than what either Biden or Trump has done, because at least they had hard copy documents, which are obviously more difficult for to pilfer, right? She had it on her server. Now, I suppose if you're getting this stuff over a server, it's possible somebody might send you an email with facts they got from classified information and forgot that they got it from a classified document. I mean, let's suppose that one of my staff had gone to a classified briefing about the range of a new fighter, and had been told as a classified matter that it was, X hundreds of miles, and did a memo for me about the fighter and forgot that fact was classified and put it in the memo over an insecure network. I mean, something like that can happen, I guess, but that's so far removed from this. It's not even a useful, hypothetical.
Speaking to former U.S. Senator Jim Talent, he's at Jim Talent on Twitter, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Jim, it seems that nearly every Democratic accusation over the last few years is suddenly becoming a confession. We had breaking news this afternoon, Senator, that one of the top cops, unfortunately, from the FBI who was involved in the Trump-Russia collusion hoax has just been arrested for allegedly colluding with a Russian oligarch. Now, we don't know the details of all this or if this is part of the John Durham investigation, but, Senator, it just shows that, when you completely make a straw man out of nothing, eventually the whole thing is going to collapse in itself. The truth will be known, and even worse, you may be found guilty of the thing that you were actually accusing others of.
Yeah, it does feel like karma, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. They're so obsessed with Russia. And, the really damaging thing, well, there's a lot of damaging things, but there's a significant part of this country that really believes, based on what they've been told, I don't blame them, but they've been told by everybody from, the New York Times to all these officials, that the Russians are doing all this stuff. Well, the Russians do have information operations in the United States, but they never had an impact on the 2016 election, and you can't consider what you should do about them in any kind of a calm and rational way if you get into hysteria like this. we've talked before about my concern that the Bureau has been compromised at very high levels. I'm not talking about the average agent. And this is further evidence of it. I mean, it bespeaks a cynical attitude to all this. You know, use it for political purposes, use it for bureaucratic maneuvering. What else are they doing? And it's a very major concern.
Senator, I want to shift to the Ukraine-Russian war. The latest weapon system that's been talked about being sent over there are these German-made tanks. I think they're called Leopard tanks. The Germans are saying, we'll send our tanks if you send your Abram tanks, and there seems to be a dispute there. Is part of the reason why we don't. I hear what they say about our tanks are more expensive and they're gas guzzlers and they take more to maintain. But is part of the reason we don't want to send our tanks over there is we don't want that technology to end up in Russian hands?
Well, I don't think that's a major concern. I think the Biden administration, I don't know if they'll admit this, they're transfixed by concern that Putin might escalate. And so what they do is the Ukraine say they want something. Say, well, they went through this with HIMARS. We want the longer range missiles. Oh, we can't do that because he might escalate. And then the months go by, and then they eventually give it to them, which is, of course, a totally incoherent policy, right? In other words, now I'm not concerned about Putin escalating, or I think that's a risk that's small enough that we should just accept it. The policy is we're going to support them, but not use our own forces or NATO forces, which I also strongly support. And so I think we should support them. And I think they should have the tanks and the longer-range missiles and the fighter aircraft. And I think if we've been following that policy consistently and messaging it properly, the Europeans would be going along. But this has been, on the part of the Biden administration, I'm not going to say dribble and drabbling out aid because it's cost too much to call it that. But they have a policy, follow the policy. The object here is to empower the Ukrainians to defend themselves and weaken the Russian state because they're an adversary of the United States, not just in Europe, but around the world. So let's follow the policy. But this has been of a piece. It took them like almost 2 years to come up with a national security strategy. And what all the stories said was because Biden couldn't make up his mind about a lot of this stuff. And they had camps within the administration that were fighting. And I think we're seeing the same thing with the Ukraine policy.
So, Senator, to follow up on that point, I think there's probably a lot of people who are not as well informed on these matters as you, and I consider myself one of those. I think a lot of Americans, especially, for a while there, everybody was, posting the Ukrainian flags in their social media feeds and all that. And that's great. We stand with the Ukrainian people, but, we're now almost a year into this. And I think some people are now starting to ask a lot of very good questions. Senator, I think there's this notion that the Biden administration is trying to portray that no matter who was president, this is how this conflict has to go. This is the only way it was going to proceed. But I think I hear you suggesting that, if there was a different leadership style or a different type of policy in place, maybe we would be in a better situation with this matter at this point, right? It does make a difference who the president is, right, in these decisions that are made as commander-in-chief, right?
And let's just say it. I have significant doubts whether Putin would have started this war if Trump had been president. Because Trump had a strong policy of supporting the Ukrainians, much more so than Obama did, in supplying them arms. And also, Trump would have seen this as what it was, a major destabilization in Europe in a brazen and completely unjustified invasion. I'm not sure Trump wouldn't have taken it personally. And as soon as he heard about it, being planned or the troops massing, I think he'd have been on the phone with Putin. And I also think Putin might have been much more concerned that Trump would be willing and able to organize a very strong opposition on the part of NATO, not fighting. I don't think Trump would have fought a war over it, but I think exactly what we've been doing, but to a greater degree, is what Putin would have been concerned about. I think he might well have figured that that Biden would not respond even as forcefully as he has, and we might have deterred it. which is what you always want. I mean, the whole peace through strength maxim works. I mean, if you're strong and you project strength, you have a much better chance of deterring armed conflict. So, yeah, I mean, did our evacuation of Afghanistan, particularly the way we did it, might well have led Putin to believe that the response would be anemic and he could get away with it. I mean, isn't that logical that he might believe that?
Yes.
Senator, China, Russia, Ukraine, they've taken up a lot of the foreign policy oxygen out of the room. But one of the most volatile areas on Earth, the Middle East, hasn't been getting a lot of attention. You don't hear about Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon. What's going on in the Middle East? Because I'm sure it hasn't all of a sudden gotten peaceful.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I think these demonstrations that we heard about in Iran a couple of months ago have had a lasting effect. The demonstrators are organizing, particularly the younger people. And so this may be, on an ongoing basis, a bigger problem for the regime than it's been in the past. At the same time, the Iranians continue to follow a policy of regional aggression that is threatening both to our interests, but also to the countries that, when we have good leadership, we typically work with, which is Egypt, Jordan, Israel, and then the Gulf states. That includes the Saudis, and the Saudis are not the most savory partner that we deal with, but there's a commonality of interests there, and that's the basis on which you have allies or partners around the world, when it's in the interests of both countries to work together. So Iran is the number one threat to all of those countries, and so there's a way forward for us, to stitch together an effective coalition to protect our interests and the interests of these other countries. That's exactly what Trump did with the Abraham Accords, right? And that's the basis on which he did it. I mean, all these countries, he was able to persuade them, because it's based on reality, that forming a common front, including with Israel, against Iran was more in their interest than continuing to support the Palestinians and, the campaigns of violence and terror that Hamas would periodically, and still does, direct towards Israel. That's the basis on which we had the Abraham Accord. So, yeah, I mean, the underlying fundamentals of the Middle East haven't changed, and they dictate at least what the strategy of the policy ought to be.
Thank you.
I can always count on Chris to bring up whatever foreign policy issue happens to be most obscure at the moment.
I was so intently listening. I just was waiting for you to keep going, but I realized we got to wrap things up.
Yeah, we're up against the clock, unfortunately.
Some meaning from what I was saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you always make us think. Jim, thank you so much. We always appreciate you helping us kick off a Monday. Folks, you can follow Senator Talent at Jim Talent on Twitter. He's the chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. There you go, Senator Jim. I seriously get so I get deep in thought when he's talking about these complicated issues.
And Katie and Tim, Jim did say he did not have classified documents in his attic,
It's
garage,
true.
or
Correct.
basement. Is that
No,
correct?
do not raid the Talent home.
He never confirmed.
Because I wanted him to
tonight.
answer a question. He kind of skipped it around a little bit. Is how did Joe Biden end up with classified documents
In
at
the
his
first
home
place?
as a senator? I mean, did you
Great
have to
question.
steal them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How'd they get there?
Yeah.
Does Senator Jim Talent have a Corvette? That's another question we didn't ask.
Yeah.
Senator Jim Talent's not the Corvette kind of guy.
See him tooling around town with the top down?
He's 6'2", 6. I think he's too tall for a Corvette.
He might be.
actually.
He might be. All right,
Not enough legroom.
we're gonna take a break. Chris, you got the corner up next.
Yeah, we're going to talk about another governor that is sending migrants up north, and it may surprise you who it is.
Oh, fantastic. That will be the subject of Chris's Corner when we return here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019 94.1. This is 94.1 News Talk STL. Chris, you were just pointing out, this song is how old?
This album came out in 2006. This was the great Johnny Cash's last album. You can tell he was suffering from emphysema, so he didn't have that strong, deep voice like he usually had. But, I remember this 2006 because my late friend Sherman Parker was running for Congress. That's how I put that together, and I had this CD at one time.
Hard to believe it's that old.
Yeah.
I believe wasn't this a double album? I bought this as well.
I think it was.
I bought this as well. I'm not a huge Johnny Cash fan, but I grew up listening to it because my dad was a big my dad is a big Johnny Cash fan. My dad listens to a lot of different kind of music, but he, my dad grew up down in Southwest Missouri, and so a lot of heavy country influences and always listened to a lot of Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Elvis, that kind of stuff growing up. And I love the songs that Johnny Cash did with U2. Yeah. He did some songs with U2 that were really powerful.
Johnny Cash was a huge, I'm a kid of the 70s. I was 6, 7 years old in the early 70s. And Johnny Cash was huge. He was a huge recording star. He had a TV show. At that time, those of us that are old enough to remember, he starred in some episodes of Columbo as a criminal. He had murdered someone, and you know how Columbo is. You know who committed the crime at the beginning of the episode, and then you just try to see if they can get away with it. But Johnny Cash was a huge star, and I remember his music, and it was sad to hear his voice diminish the way that it was. He had such a beautiful bass voice. And when Becky and I one time went to Memphis, Tennessee, we went to the Sun Records, and they showed the place where the three great icons of rock made that album, Jerry Lee Lewis, all of them. And, I was like, I remember Johnny Cash. I'm going to pick up some of his music. I think I got a CD there, and Becca and I rocked that for quite a few years. We had a particular song that we liked.
Nice.
It's kind of really corny. I'll disclose
it
one day. No, I can't talk about it. I'll find it one day and I'll send it to you.
Okay, then we'll
play it. It has to do with
livestock.
livestock.
Okay.
Becky knows. Funny. Becky's like, oh, I know exactly the song you're talking about. But before we went to break, Tim and Katie, I was talking about another governor is sending migrants up north to Chicago, Washington, D.C., and it may not be a governor that you think it is. And we'll talk about that next on Chris's Corner.
Chris.
The whole thing is a joke.
Good God, we got to do something here, people.
It's not personal. It's strictly business.
My favorite black leader of all time is Frederick Douglass, who asked after emancipation, well, we just freed the blacks, now what are we going to do with them? And his answer was, leave us alone.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
I think in Chris's Corner last week, I talked about the illegal immigration numbers that come out every month from the Department of Homeland Security, that they seem to be coming out later and later in the month. And last week, I think that's the second or third week of December or January, and we still hadn't received those numbers. Well, those numbers were released today, and as expected, December set a record for illegal immigrants entering the country. It was 260,000. That's a record, but many were forecasting 250,000, which was a record. Also, they're also estimating that another 600,000 got away and weren't recorded in the system. So you're looking at 300,000 people entering the country illegally in December. We've seen the problems that illegal migration has caused with the border counties down in Texas. We've seen how the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, and Arizona governor the Florida governor have sent a lot of those illegal migrants up to Washington, D.C., to New York, to Chicago. We've seen the Chicago mayor the New York mayor actually went down to the border and visited and talked about what a humanitarian disaster this is, and that New York cannot afford any more illegal migrants, and that this was costing $3 billion a year. And the illustrious mayor of New York called for a border czar. I guess he didn't get the memo that We already have a border czar, and that is Kamala Harris, who has not yet visited the border. Well, that state that I've been teasing you with that is sending migrants to different areas is Arizona. And if you remember, in Arizona, there was a hotly contested governor's race with Katie Hobbs, the Democrat, who won, with Carrie Lake, who was a local talk show host who made a very spirited run, and many feel that she won that race, and there were shenanigans in Maricopa County. Well, U.S. Governor Katie Hobbs said on Friday that she is expanding the program that's in place, that's going to send bus loads of people and chartered air travel to different destinations all around the country because these are where these people want to go anyway. That's how she is justifying it. She's not saying that she is shipping these people problems onto other states and other communities. She's saying that these people, even though they are illegal, but Arizona is not their final destination. They want to meet up with relatives in New York City, Chicago, Miami, St. Louis, wherever. And all that she's doing is just helping to facilitate that. Boy, it's this is the second Democratic governor that has started shipping migrants north and eastward. Colorado's new governor did the same thing. But of course, the Twitterverse and the progressives shamed him into stopping the program. But he, too, his city, Denver, and Colorado was being overwhelmed by these migrants that's using up resources that they don't have, especially when it comes to money and materials like blankets and food. So they have shifted that problem to Chicago and New York, and we've heard the crying and the gnashing of teeth up there. You know, you would think that this would finally get on the Biden administration's radar if you have two governors that are in pretty important swing states. Colorado, not as much a swing state, but Arizona is a swing state. You would think that if these governors are talking about how much a big problem this is and are shipping these folks to other areas, that maybe the Joe Biden and the Democratic Party should listen. But as we saw last week, as the president made his trip to the border, quote unquote, and everything was cleaned up, they still don't see this as a major problem for them. I'm hoping that with the new Congress starting up, with these investigations, especially of Homeland Security Director Mayorkas, we will see more sunlight on this problem, and maybe the Democrats in this administration will take our border crisis more seriously. And that is Chris's Corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how about that, huh? Kind of an odd. You wouldn't think she. You would think she would be.
We're just sending them to Miami, St. Louis, and we're just facilitating. They're going there. We're helping the federal government instead of rounding them up and sending them to the DHS and to the Border Patrol to send them home. We're helping them and to ingratiate them more into the United States and send them all over the world. That's liberal logic.
Yeah, and it's not a solution to the problem, is it? It really isn't. This is not a solution.
It's a solution
to
for them.
For them, yeah, it's great for them.
They don't have to deal with them anymore.
Speaking of Arizona, I saw Congresswoman Lesko interviewed over the weekend, and she said, "You know the way we could solve this? Reinstitute the Trump policy of remain in Mexico." But they'll never do that, Chris, because they'd have to admit Trump was right.
You know, the Super Bowl is in Phoenix this year. Do you think we'll see a lot of illegal migrants around Super Bowl Plaza?
A lot of tent cities?
You think?
I doubt it.
What do you think, Katie? No?
Probably not.
They'll do an El Paso. They'll do an El Paso, right?
Quick cleanup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't get hosed down.
Yeah. Got to have the photo op for the cameras because, oh, no, Chris, we can't see those illegal immigrant tent cities in time for the Super Bowl.
And be asking many questions.
Excellent point indeed. Hey, folks, if you want to comment on Chris's Corner, give us a holler at 314-912-1019. We'll be back with the Speaker Stump Speech, Susie Morin, next here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
I've been down on bended knee.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
The great Larry Connors.
Thank you. And then, by the way, everybody at the poker room's asking about you. They miss your money.
Second person to say it that way. Not my company. They miss my money.
Well, people are going hungry.
I'm hanging up the playing cards, Larry. It comes to a point when you realize you just don't have it.
I'll teach you.
Okay.
It'll cost you.
Yeah, of course. Right. More about taking money.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Kansas City Steak Company, another AmericanEagle.com success story. Started in 1932 as a family-owned butcher shop, today they're a leading distributor of superior all-American steaks delivered right to your door, ready for the grill and your taste buds. When it came to their website, an average site wouldn't do. They chose AmericanEagle.com to take their website to the next level. With a dramatic increase in competition and a softening market demand, they had two challenges: improve their brand presence and message and produce a positive return. AmericanEagle.com got to work and executed usability studies and detailed audits of site experience, digital assets, and marketing. The result? An integrated digital marketing and customer experience plan, organic traffic increase of 20%, and a long-term roadmap for success. If you love great steaks, go to kansascitysteaks.com for website design, development, and online solutions that bring efficiency and results. Visit AmericanEagle.com. If you need a results-driven website, call the team at AmericanEagle.com at 877-WEBNOW1. That's 877-WEBNOW1.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I've had 2 vaccines, and then I had issues with my legs. I'm standing today, but for a long time, I had to sit.
You had to sit, yeah.
I don't know if it had anything to do with it, but it was around the time I had it done.
Ken's very shy, but he doesn't want to tell people they actually had to have a procedure after getting the vaccine to remove a tail.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to divulge that, Mike. Thank you.
The pictures were awful.
Yeah, really. You're not going to give those out, are you?
No.
Weekday mornings, 5:30 till 9 on News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. A former high-ranking FBI counterintelligence official has been indicted on charges he helped a Russian oligarch in violation of U.S. sanctions.
Charles McGonigal, the former special agent in charge of the FBI's New York Counterintelligence Division, is accused in an indictment of working with a former Soviet diplomat turned Russian interpreter on behalf of Oleg Deripaska, a Russian billionaire energy magnate. McGonigal, who had supervised investigations of Russian oligarchs, including Deripaska, before retiring in 2018, allegedly worked to have Deripaska's sanctions lifted in 2019. McGonigal was separately charged in federal court in D.C. with concealing $225,000 in payments he received from an outside source with whom he traveled to Europe. Julie Walker, New York.
President Biden is expected to name Jeff Zients as his next chief of staff. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
The personnel change comes with current chief of staff Ron Klain preparing to leave the job in the coming weeks. 2 people familiar with the matter say the president has selected Zients to lead his White House staff. At the start of the administration, Zients ran the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The president will be working with a new top aide as House Republicans launch investigations and as the White House faces a classified documents controversy. Greg Clugston, Washington.
The search for the motive behind the shooting massacre at a Los Angeles area ballroom dance hall led police to a mobile home community in Hemet. Authorities say Hu Can Tran killed 10 people at a Monterey Park dance hall and attempted a shooting later at another club before taking his own life. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up by 254 points. The Nasdaq rose 224. More on these stories at townhall.com.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-940-6161. That's 1-800-940-6161. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-940-6161. SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Here's the Wall.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your First Alert forecast. And Tuesday night into Wednesday is a First Alert weather day. Due to snow, 3 to 6 inches, it's going to be an absolute mess, especially between about midnight and noon on Wednesday. Snow will turn lighter and taper off in the afternoon. But we're dry tonight, low down to 31, 44 in the afternoon on Tuesday. Starts off as a little rain Tuesday evening, switching over to snow Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Low of 33, so it's going to snow heavy enough to overcome the melting. It'll be a wet, heavy, slushy snow in the afternoon, snow tapering off in a high of 37 for Wednesday. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Michaels Flooring Outlet is a locally owned and operated family business for more than 28 years, featuring exclusive products, unbeatable prices, and expert installation. You can choose from a wide variety of flooring options, including carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, plus many other options. And you'll gain a peace of mind knowing that your flooring and carpet installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michaels. You can shop in-store at one of their 3 convenient locations or shop from home online. Check out everything Michaels Flooring has to offer at igotfloored.com.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. The city was booming. Unfortunately, St. Louis city streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline. St. Louis City Republicans believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican Pat Curtis, Farber Treasurer.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
A promise we made in the Declaration of Independence, that we are each endowed with the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness.
I think she left a word out.
She missed one.
Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show, 1019-9401 News Talk STL. I mean, Chris, they say, oh, you conspiracy theorists. We're not trying to destroy the United States of America. We're not trying to dismantle our foundational principles. And then she goes and does exactly that.
Yeah, and, it's almost to the point where they don't even really try to hide it anymore. Their disdain for America. You look at things like the 1619 Project that outwardly tells falsehoods about our history. One of them was that the only reason why the colonists rebelled in 1776 is because England was about to outlaw the slave trade, which we know that was not the case. So that's the culture we live in now, unfortunately.
It is. And they constantly get caught, or when they think no one's looking or listening, which is 24/7 in today's iPhone, Android world, they say the quiet part out loud. Different subject, but Al Gore did it last week at the WEF in Davos. He said in a speech, in prepared remarks, he said, well, I don't know if it was prepared remarks, but he was on a panel up on a stage. It was not a hot mic moment. And he was talking about how proud he was of Joe Biden and Democrats for passing the Inflation Reduction Act, which he said these almost exact words, which was actually designed to combat climate change.
Yeah. Which was amazing that he said that, especially over there in Switzerland, over in Europe, because the Europeans are upset that the United States passed the Inflation Reduction Act because it gives a lot of government assistance to wind and green energy companies, and the Europeans are crying foul because we're not subsidizing our green energy companies, and they're upset about that. So it's kind of weird that he would say that over there, because the Europeans are not happy with our Inflation Reduction Act.
Mm-hmm. And to further that point, I had an interesting conversation this afternoon with a younger friend of mine who lives in Nashville, who I used to work with at a prior company back in the day. And he sometimes listens to us on the app.
Oh,
so hello
fantastic.
to Steven, in case
Hey,
Steven's
Steve.
listening.
Vin.
So Steven's now gotten into the crypto world, and he works for a company that's called like the Crypto Leadership Institute or something like that. They're a 501c3 think tank. And he said they're made up of Steven's a little, he said, I'm the old guy. Steven's not quite 40. I think he's in his early 30s. He said, I'm the old guy running around with all these 20-some-year-old young nerd brainiacs who know everything about crypto and mining and all that. And Steven said, Tim, there's hope for the future because these young people in their 20s. Katie, what generation is that? It's in their 20s?
Gen Zers.
Gen Zers.
Mm-hmm.
He said Gen Zers are learning because of crypto that you have to have base load energy. That you can't.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So in that, you can't mine crypto on solar or wind power. Steven said to me, he goes, we're learning that solar and wind kind of suck. That's what Steven.
Really
that's what Steven said to me this afternoon. He said you've got to use coal or oil or nuclear, which is a clean energy, or natural gas. You can't. Crypto takes a lot.
Wind isn't going to do it.
I know nothing about mining crypto, but I know that it requires a lot of power and energy. He said, Tim, you can't do it on windmills and solar panels. So the younger generations are learning the concept of base load energy, which I think is great. Right?
And that's one of the things the progressives have been on the crypto mining business, because it takes such a tremendous amount of energy to mine that. I hope Steven, if he's around anyone that has a curly hair and lives with their parents and seems kind of awkward socially, to not walk but run away from someone like
Steven
that.
said, he said that whole thing wasn't really good for us. He goes, but we don't do that stuff. Yeah. He goes, I hope Tim, we're going to get past this. Bitcoin, by the way, is way up off of its lows. It was down to like 15 or 16,000.
Super low.
Now it's down up back in the 20s. So
okay,
it's regained quite a bit. He said, Tim, he goes, think of it this way. 30, 40 years ago, your parents or your grandparents, if they had a mom and pop shop, they may have been approached about, getting on this newfangled thing called the internet. Mm-hmm. And they would have said back then, well, what do I need the internet for? No one's going to use the internet. Mm-hmm. How are we going to sell things on the internet? Well, here we are. Now we just take it for granted.
I always wonder which is going to be the more profitable thing for this technology in the future. Is it going to be the actual coin, or is it going to be the blockchain technology, which can be used in so many other fashions, so many other industries to make things secure? But I'm just, but I can see the coin aspect of it, because people want to decentralize central banks and currency and all that. But the technology is the big thing with this blockchain thing. So it's to be very secure and a lot of mechanisms in place to make sure that it is.
You're right. And, that's right. Steven did say, hey, if you guys ever want any of our resident fellows to come on and talk about these things, these are young people that are very libertarian-minded, and they know more than I've already forgotten about crypto and Bitcoin. I said, okay, we'll take you up on that sometime.
Isn't that crazy that you can teach someone that young when it's on their level? Like something so complicated as energy, and something so complicated as we do need to start looking at sources like nuclear or like natural gas or like coal, and how much more of a powerful impact that has than solar. And you can kind of make it a little bit political, but even understanding that concept, that's a really heavy concept for a 20-year-old to try to wrap their head around. And crypto was something that was brought in for them to understand that. I think that's incredible.
Yeah,
I love that.
I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I think we're all onto something here. I actually saw 3 articles over the weekend about the same subject, and they were from different news sources. They were all center-right news sources. There was National Review. May have been one on Newsmax. May have been one on Fox. Anyway, they were all about whether or not the whole electric car craze is completely overblown and is not going to be the wave of the future. And some people are starting to talk about that because it's not necessarily that environmentally sustainable to continue to strip mine, to build all these massive batteries. So it's kind of like, I wonder if electric cars are going to kind of be a transition, and we're going to come up with a fuel source. Maybe it's going to be fusion. Maybe it's going to be some kind of thermonuclear that we make more safer. I almost feel like the electric thing is like a bridge. It's an intermediary. And we're going to find something. It's not going to be solar and wind. It's going to be something else, you know?
Yeah, it's going to have to be something that replaces these batteries and are much more longer lasting than what we have now. And there's just not the infrastructure currently. I mean, if I had an electric car, I wouldn't take it on a trip across country. I don't know where all the charging stations are, and it's not worth my time to try to map them out. And the dirty little secret, too, that we learned a few weeks ago or months ago was that with these electric vehicles, they may get so many miles to the gallon or whatever, or miles. But if it's a cold day and you got the heat blasting on high to keep yourself warm, that knocks the battery down in some cases up to 40%. Using other things to defrost, same thing. So until they can improve the battery and make them very longer lasting and build out the infrastructure so there's one in every corner like a gas station, I'm just not interested in it.
Yeah, and what the liberals don't seem to understand is, yes, we need electricity, but electricity is not a fuel source in and of itself. Yeah. Electricity has to be made by something. And so what the young crypto kids are figuring out is we need base load energy. And I don't think the fuel of the future is going to be coal or oil either. I think it's going to be something we haven't that somebody is working on somewhere that isn't quite created yet. It's not quite refined yet. You know, maybe it's this fusion thing. I keep forgetting to give a shout out to WC on Twitter. Enjoyed our Jim Talent interview and gave us a shout out. Eddie said something really funny. He said, Katie, I think it was in response to Katie's tweet that you put out about before Jim came on.
Yeah,
And so WC responded at Sig and Sauer, which is interesting. That's funny. Kirkwood High School's finest son.
Yeah,
there we go.
So WC is obviously a big fan of Senator Jim Talent, knows his history well. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Appreciate you very much. I was talking to Tony about something, and I want to get your opinion too, Katie.
Sure.
It's a shout out to one of our advertisers and also a big friend of the station. I heard the promo that Tony did for the Retro Nerds, doing the Peter Gabriel Sting show. I've never seen either of them. I'm a huge Sting fan, and so I was asking Tony, should I go? And he said they are fantastic. You and Suzanne should go.
Jason is absolutely incredible. He's the lead singer. The Retro Nerds are so much fun, and they put on such a fantastic show. I am telling you, like. They performed.
Weren't they at our
for our birthday?
So I had to. I was so. I was going to use a word I probably shouldn't use. I was upset that I had to leave because I had to do the morning show. So I couldn't. I really wanted to stay for them, and I had to go. I heard. Yeah, Chris, you were able to stay. Yeah, I heard they were. I heard they were fantastic.
I mean,
took me back.
His
That's what I want.
The band, the what they do with videography, what they do with the lyrics and the music videos that are playing on around them whenever they're performing, it is the most entertaining show I have seen in such a long time. You should definitely go.
Okay.
You and Suzanne should.
Especially if you're an 80s kid, you'll love it.
My next door neighbors, they're slightly younger than us. They're in their early 40s, so I think they'd enjoy it too. They were kind of at the end of that generation, so I think they would really enjoy it too because they like music.
I know you love Sting.
I am a big Sting guy. And Peter Gabriel, man, what a haunting voice he has.
I love his voice.
Yeah. That was that big album, right, Chris? When we were was it called So, I think, Peter Gabriel? That was like his big, I think it was called So, S-O. So, yeah.
More Sting guy than,
Yeah,
I love Peter
too.
Gabriel, but I don't have any of his music, but I've got Sting's music.
All right, so we played Goofy Kamala. Who writes that stuff for her? Where you could tell she was purposefully trying not to say what the actual Declaration of Independence says, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You could tell how she was carefully stair-stepping her way through that because it's just so natural to say that. We played that clip where she left that out. And so I am going to do a stump speech today based on the concept of why the state has an interest in life.
Listen to me, listen. listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
So that's another reason we need communism.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
So as I was preparing for the stump speech today, I was doing a little research and I stumbled across an article I hadn't come across before from the Texas Alliance for Life. I don't know the Texas Alliance for Life, but I'm assuming they're similar to Missouri Right to Life or any other pro-life group, because I could quickly tell from their writings that's basically the side of the political platform they're on. So if you'd like to find this article as well, it's a very new article. It was published about a year ago. Texas, leading up to the 2022 decision of Dobbs v. Jackson, when a lot of people were writing about whether or not Roe was going to be overturned or not. So TexasAllianceForLife.org, they wrote this article in I think it was in December of 2021, as a lot of people were prognosticating and thinking about, what would happen, how would it happen that the Supreme Court would overturn Roe v. Wade. Well, we now know that it did. And I found this one line in this very good piece. It's not too long of an article, but it's relatively detailed. It goes through the argument that the jurisprudence around Roe v. Wade, the initial Roe decision itself, and then all of its, as we say in the legal world, progeny, it's basically children, all the cases that came after it, Casey versus Planned Parenthood, et cetera, and so forth, that Roe got it wrong in the beginning. And you know what? A lot of liberal legal scholars would agree with that statement that I just made, most notably Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who did a lot of speechifying and writing about Roe. Now, Ruth Bader Ginsburg remained ardently pro-choice until her death. May she rest in peace. But she was an honest broker of the law. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was no fan of the leftist lunacy that we've seen pop up across this country. In fact, she spoke out against political violence quite a bit in her last few years. And she also continued to advocate against Roe as the final say on the pro-life versus pro-choice message, because she felt that Roe was decided inappropriately at its very beginning. Well, Roe established the concept that the unborn child, the left would call it the fetus, we would call it the unborn child. Roe said that that was not a person. And that's been one of the biggest arguments. And that argument actually continues to until now, because now that the states are having to take on this issue, they're having to now continue to answer that question. When does the collection of cells, the combination of the cells, is it conception? Is it at some point thereafter? When exactly is it? I feel that those of us on the right, we actually will debate this point. We'll actually talk with each other about it. There's different forms of, there's different degrees of Republicans in the pro-life world that will argue for abortion bans at certain points. Some are purists, and that's fine. They say it begins at conception, and I tend to believe that, but I respect the opinion of those who believe. I may not agree with them that we should have markers as to time, because I don't think God determines that. I think He says I'm creating a person or I'm not. And we can continue to debate the exceptions until the cows come home. But let's go back to this whole concept where Roe decided, as this article points out, completely unconstitutionally, without any basis in law or fact or interfounding documents, that the person in the womb is not such. This one line in this article really jumped out at me. Actually, it's two lines. I'm going to read these two lines. If one's life is taken, one's liberty to choose how one will live is taken away, as well as the right to pursue happiness. That one sentence alone takes on that line that Kamala Harris, likely purposefully, inadvertently, misstated and misspoke. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As the article points out, if you take somebody's life, then you've also taken their liberty, and you've definitely taken their right to pursue happiness. So abortion does not live within the realm of the Declaration of Independence and its semantics. Then this next sentence, I think, is the one that every time I've had an argument with someone on this issue, they're never able to really answer. The right to life is the fundamental right because without life, there are no other rights, right? If you're going to have any rights at all, you got to be born first. And to extrapolate that argument, what is the purpose of the state? I'm speaking kind of generally, right? Not just the United States, but any state, any nation, any state. Shouldn't its purpose be to protect life? Because if you take it to, I would argue, its logical end. If let's say the opposite is true. Let's say the opposite axiom is true. If the state has zero interest in protecting life, guess what? The state is eventually not going to exist. And boy, I'll tell you, if you look at some of the causes that the left, the hard far left is advocating for these days, you wonder if maybe that's what they believe. They become a very nihilistic culture of death. This bizarre transgender movement, promoting sexual mutilation of children and promoting abortion on demand, even after the point of birth itself, seems to fly in the face of any interest that the state would have. I believe the state has an ultimate interest in life, and that's why it should be protected to its utmost. And that's the stump speech for today.
You know, it's not a hard concept to believe that pro-life people are just for you being able to live. And somehow that has become the most complicated subject ever. I don't know how and I don't know why, but
and
that's what we're
the
for.
second most complicated subject now to me, which I don't understand, is as advanced as we are as a society and as a people right now, we don't know when life begins.
Mm-hmm.
That's astounding to me. I would think the founders would look at us today and be like, "Are you kidding me?"
Science, baby. I
Yeah.
thought we were all about science.
Yeah, it's the confluence of God and science, and that creates life, right? And you notice how Kamala Harris, in that speech, Katie, that you played, if you listen to the broader context and what she said, she never, hardly ever says the word abortion. She says reproductive rights.
Yeah.
Well, the only right they mean is the right to kill the infant in the womb.
Yeah,
That's the only right they actually mean.
Yeah, the focus groups have said that abortion is not a word that you want to use. Reproductive rights appeals to the idiots, for lack of better.
well stated, Chris. And we're going to leave it right there. I couldn't agree more. All right, folks, when we come back, we will bring in Susie Moore of Red State, see what's going on in Susie World and on redstate.com when Chris and I return here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your First Alert forecast. And Tuesday night into Wednesday is a First Alert weather day. Due to snow, 3 to 6 inches, it's going to be an absolute mess, especially between about midnight and noon on Wednesday. Snow will turn lighter and taper off in the afternoon. But we're dry tonight, low down to 31, 44 in the afternoon on Tuesday. Starts off as a little rain Tuesday evening, switching over to snow Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Low of 33, so it's going to snow heavy enough to overcome the melting. It'll be a wet, heavy, slushy snow in the afternoon, snow tapering off and a high of 37 for Wednesday. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
If you believe Brandon and the supply chain issues are still in crisis, or even if you don't, hurry into Southern Armory, your Second Amendment headquarters, for the best selection of firearms, suppressors, holsters, ammunition, pepper spray, and knives. Browse through our constantly changing inventory, order something special, or have us repair or modify that firearm that you've been putting off. Try our firearms training simulator. See the demo video on our website. Come into Southern Armory, 9901 Watson Road, 1 mile east of 270 and 44, at southernarmory.com. That's southernarmory.com.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson here. Everybody here at News Talk STL is incredibly grateful for the growth of our business during our first 18 months since we signed on the air. We appreciate the great local businesses like Clear Path Wealth Management, STL Fence Works, and Michael's Flooring that have all become advertising partners. If your business is interested in becoming part of the News Talk STL family, simply send an email to info@newstalkstl.com. Thanks for listening to News Talk STL. Welcome home.
St. Louis's place to talk.
Because that's where the votes are getting stolen. When you get into the facts and logic and reason thing, it drives me crazy because you're right.
I call it the oh my God virus.
News Talk STL. News news, analysis, opinion. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Six years after he was vice president. Do you think that's also very serious?
Well, it depends on the nature of the documents. What I said, as you were listening, was if the nature of these documents is what it appears to be. We don't know.
Chris, I've been wondering where Chris Wallace made off to.
Yeah, he is with, who is he with? But he's CNN, but he's got a special project show where he interviews people for an entire hour. He thinks he's that important. People really care. We don't hear about the show, so I don't think it's doing very well.
Remember when he was on CNN Plus? He was the big pull for CNN Plus, and then it failed dramatically, and they had to give him a show just on CNN.
What was that? The UK Daily Mail.
Yep.
Whether you could last longer than a head of lettuce.
Yeah.
I don't think they made it.
They didn't.
All right,
so many jokes there.
There really is. let's bring in our next guest. Save us from ourselves.
I'm the boss. How about that? I'm walking on sunshine.
Yeah.
Whoa. What do we do with that promo?
Scratching?
Hello. What is
you're
going
DJ,
on
Katie.
there?
Not supposed,
Cutting and scratching.
not supposed to happen with digital stuff, is it?
Not at all. Yeah.
Okay, we'll fix that.
We'll
fix that. Sorry, Susie.
You got a little special
damaged
intro.
my vinyl?
Who damaged Susie's vinyl? That's great.
Not me.
Susie Moore with Red State, Deputy Managing Editor for Red State, at SmoozyQ on Twitter. So, Susie, as we heard from Nancy Pelosi there, that's the third line of attack on why we should continue to hate Donald Trump but forgive Joe Biden. First it was, there's a different number of documents, and I don't know if that's even true anymore because they're not being very forthcoming on exactly how many documents. They just keep finding them in Joe Biden land. Then it was where they were. Oh, it's at the think tank, so it's okay. Well, then they were found in the garage. Now, Susie, it's the nature of the document. Whatever that means, Susie. Susie, what are they talking about, the nature of the documents? I don't even understand what that means.
Well, I think what they mean is it turns on how super duper secret they were.
Where do you think this is going?
I think this is going to, ease Joe's exit from the White House. I don't think we're ever going to see a criminal prosecution for this. I think that they will probably fall back on the intent standard and say, based on the cooperation from the Biden administration and his claim to not really have been aware that these were there, that they're not going to be able to show intent, so it wouldn't be worth prosecuting. But I do think it's going to be used as sort of leverage to encourage Joe to exit stage left.
Susie, I tried to watch a little bit of KJP's press conference today. I had to turn it off because if she would have said one more time that the president takes classified documents very seriously, I was going to bust a blood vessel in my head, so I had to turn it off. The leading story right now on redstate.com, where it says Peter Doocy wins another round of Stump the Press Secretary during daily briefing. I missed that. Can you update us on what happened?
Well, I think it was just another example of Ducey doing his job and being a proactive journalist who was kind of pushing back at the power structure and questioning them closely over this obviously very seriously incident or situation. I kind of almost feel sorry for KJP because first off, when this whole story first came out, it was clear that she had not really been briefed or adequately prepared on how to respond to it. She seemed to be caught unaware. It doesn't seem like it's gotten much better for her since then. She's simply being thrown out there every day to the press wolves to spin and do what she can. And the best thing she can do is basically just repeat the whole, we take it very seriously, we're being transparent. And she doesn't have anything substantive to add. But the reason being, there's not a good explanation for this. And she's not been given, any real insight, it doesn't appear, as to what the actual explanation is.
Speaking to Susie Moore of Red State, redstate.com. Susie, there is a piece that we just talked about as part of the Speaker's Stump Speech that's also featured on Red State about everyone's favorite vice president, Kamala Harris, the border czar, who is now changing our foundational documents. I mean, Susie, when they do stupid things like this, the Democrats win stupid prizes, right? Because
right.
they just fuel the conspiracy theories of everybody on the center right of the political spectrum who have been arguing for several years that the Democrats are trying to destroy the foundational principles of our country. The Democrats go, "Oh no, that's silly, all you tinfoil hatters," and then they change the words and they purposely leave out the word life. I mean, she really is not helping those who believe in maybe more. I don't approve of abortion anytime, anywhere, but, there are some Democrats who try to be reasonable on the issue, but she's not helping them, is she?
No, I would say not. And I mean, the bottom line is, obviously that was a deliberate omission, but it's a fundamental and foundational concept. You can't have liberty or the pursuit of happiness if you don't have life to begin with. And so, that nice little two-step that she tried to do there, surely they didn't think it would go unnoticed. And, as we can see, everyone's reacting to it. It's not cute. It doesn't really effectively convey their message. She could have just as easily said it and maybe, she could have said it in a different way. She could have not gone to those sort of kind of key words that everyone recognizes as part of the core of our Declaration of Independence. She could have just gone to a different way of presenting her point. But she chose to go the way that was going to highlight the fact that she was omitting the fundamental concept of life.
Susie, we learned over the weekend more documents have been found, and Joe Biden, the latest documents show that he had documents from when he was a senator, before he was vice president, of course. Today's more to the point is not so top secret. Is there any connection?
As a matter of fact, there is. Yes, and I apologize. Puppy has seen somebody outside. That is very interesting. The reasoning behind that is obviously each couple of days we're getting more and more little trickles of information about this, and it seems to get worse and worse for the president. And my whole point in that was this. I've never had security clearance, so I haven't had to, learn the ins and outs of dealing with classified information. However, in my 30 years of law practice, I certainly became well acquainted with, the idea of handling sensitive information and keeping confidences and attorney-client privilege, which is a similar concept. And you're not doing a very good job if you're breaching that and not protecting those confidences. Just like when you have a security clearance, you're not doing a good job if you're not abiding by the rules that protect that confidentiality and that secret information. And it appears that Joe, who, as far as we know, is also a lawyer, is failing in both concepts. And, for somebody who was in government for almost 50 years, you'd think that he'd be well-versed enough in the way these things work to not continually stumble on this issue. It's one of those things where it's not hard for me to understand how, a singular document or group of documents could get mixed in with ones that they aren't supposed to. Not the type that would be, being viewed in a SCIF, but maybe, just classified documents could, from oversight, maybe end up where they shouldn't be. But we don't have that situation here. We have multiple troves of documents in multiple locations with multiple layers of classification to them. So it just raises lots of questions and makes it seem as though the person who holds the highest office in the land doesn't believe that he should have to abide by rules that are there to protect our nation and our national security.
Susie, you bring up an excellent point in this, more to the point, about the fact that Joe Biden is an attorney. I think it's a fact that most Americans forget, aren't aware of, don't remember. I have to be reminded from time to time because I don't know that Biden ever practiced a day in his life or ever ran
Briefly.
a law firm he probably never ran a law firm.
He practiced briefly. No, I'm sure he didn't run a law firm.
Be responsible as a small business owner like a lot of lawyers have to be. So, Susie, you and I are taught that because of our classification and honor of being officers of the court, lawyers are often saddled with a higher degree of responsibility, right, Susie, than just a normal custodian or caretaker. So Joe should know more than anybody the importance of handling privileged, confidential, top secret, SCIF level information. And with more and more batches of these coming from multiple different places in very slipshotty ways, boy, I bet he's really regretting making that comment to, was it Leslie Stahl or one of the other ones at 60 Minutes last fall, where he said, wow, President Trump or anybody else who would handle classified documents, boy, how careless, how reckless, how stupid.
How irresponsible.
Yes. Probably regretting all of that, right?
Well, I mean, to the extent that he's, aware of how it's all unfolding and attuned to it, I would think so. Those are certainly words that are coming back to haunt him right now. But, it just kind of highlights this issue that we have that's ongoing, the double standard, one standard applies to the guys we don't like versus the guys we do like. No, the same standard should apply to everybody. And if it's irresponsible for Donald Trump to mishandle classified information or to retain possession of classified information, then it's irresponsible for Joe Biden too. And they need to be held to the same account.
Susie, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has reappointed Adam Schiff and Swalwell to the Intelligence Committee. How much of a fight are you expecting over these renominations to this committee? You think it's going to be a big hubbub?
I think it's going to be a bit of a to-do, and it's going to kind of test the mettle of Kevin McCarthy. But, the bottom line is this is a rule and a precedent that's been set by the Democrats now, where they determined under Nancy Pelosi's reign that the minority party was no longer entitled to select its committee members, and therefore, if they want to play by those rules, again, then the Republicans are going to play by them too. My suspicion is that McCarthy is going to push back and say, nope, it's not going to work. I don't see him caving on this. He's maintained all along, even before he got the speakership, that he was going to remove those two, particularly from their committee's assignments. And so I don't see him blinking on this one.
Susie, before we let you go, anything else you'd like to direct the listeners of News Talk STL Nation to on redstate.com?
Yeah, there was an article this morning about how M&Ms, they tried to go woke with their characters. and people didn't like that very much. So now they're like, okay, well, we're not going to have our characters at all. We're just going to have Maya Rudolph sell our candy.
Oh, my God.
So I'm not really sure what the calculation is there. Not that there's anything wrong, particularly with Maya Rudolph, but I don't know why they think that having her as their spokeslady is going to make it all better. I'm not really sure.
So no more M&M's candy?
The little guys.
No way.
Yeah, they're going to shift away from having little red and yellow M&M guys, and they're going to have.
What is wrong with us?
Just like a lot.
That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's candy.
I think that was a pretty successful marketing campaign.
I do too.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Susie, you always bring a smile to our face and a song to our heart, even when we're just laughing at silly liberal lunacy. So we thank you for that.
All right. Well, happy to do my part.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you, Susie.
Thanks.
At SmoozyQ on Twitter.
That is so ridiculous.
So, do you guys remember one of my favorite M&M commercials? Totally impolitically correct. You remember the one where the female M&M shows up? I think she was brown.
Yeah, she's just brown.
And the other one's sitting there giggling because he thinks she's naked.
Yes.
He thinks she's just chocolate,
Yes,
you know?
yeah.
And he's giggling. And then he whips off his shell.
Yes.
And he says, "Oh, it's that kind of party."
I love it.
Yeah. And everybody laughs. And, so I guess we can't even have candy humor anymore, right?
That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard, that people are mad about the M&M's candy.
And it's probably some campaign that happened on Twitter, which people think Twitter is real, and it's not.
Boy, you're so right about that. I bet you that's right. I bet you it started on social media.
Yeah.
I bet it did.
Stupid.
Oh, there's a public backlash. We've got to do something.
Does the liberals realize they're not real? That they're like little cartoon characters?
We can't have any fun anymore. We cannot have any fun anymore.
Idiots.
It's unbelievable. Maya Rudolph's funny and all.
I love Maya
but
Rudolph,
I thought her with the candies was kind of funny, Who
Ridiculous.
knows? Ay. All right, we're going to take a break, come back to help wrap this thing up before we turn things over to Larry Connor's Daily USA and more when Chris, Katie, and I return on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. You're at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
What we do is, if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to
11, exactly.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your First Alert forecast. And Tuesday night into Wednesday is a First Alert weather day. Due to snow, 3 to 6 inches, it's going to be an absolute mess, especially between about midnight and noon on Wednesday. Snow will turn lighter and taper off in the afternoon. But we're dry tonight, low down to 31, 44 in the afternoon on Tuesday. Starts off as a little rain Tuesday evening, switching over to snow Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Low of 33, so it's going to snow heavy enough to overcome the melting. It'll be a wet, heavy, slushy snow in the afternoon, snow tapering off in a high of 37 for Wednesday. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
If you are even thinking about selling your home, you need to get a hold of our friends Rodney and Jen Wallner, the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway. You can reach them right now this evening, 314-810-SOLD. Yep, spring's right around the corner, and I know a lot of you have to make decisions at this time of year. There's corporate moves. There's just the desire to maybe upsize, downsize, whatever your state of life or position might be, the Wallners can help you sell your homestead when you call them at 314-810-SOLD. They're going to offer you a flexible commission plan right off the top when you speak with Rodney and or Jen. It's going to be one that is tailored to your family-specific needs. No obligation, no long-term commitment. That will be a clause in every single one of the contracts, so you can walk away at any point in time. They've got so many approved home buyers, they'll guarantee to obtain you an offer. That's because they're selling 15 times more homes per year than your typical realtor. And you get a personal touch of a husband and wife team, two for the price of one. How priceless is that? When you call Rodney and Jen at 314-810-SOLD. Call them today for a free listing consultation. Sell your home with this top-producing real estate team, Rodney and Jen Wallner, 314-810-SOLD. That's 314-810-SOLD.
Columbo and Katie.
Crane Durham, founder of Nothing But Truth, nothingbutTruth.com.
If the mainstream media would get in the game and actually think about the normal, everyday, average American, they would see, what happens when a city inherits or gets bused a particular population of illegal aliens? I think it's absolutely terrible.
Tony Columbo, Katie Fitzpatrick. Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
How can police protect us when politicians around here keep sticking them in the back? We're talking about that and what it means to you on Tuesday's program.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
You know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government.
Talk lines are open now at 314-912-1019.
We're going to have days, and sometimes there will be days of immense water, of rain, of storms, of flooding. And at the same time, we are a state that has experienced for generations drought. And we must therefore understand that the issues that are present in the climate crisis are varied. And it requires us to be present and to be in front of each of the iterations and variations that include extreme weather that produces a lot of water and extreme weather that produces drought.
She's so silly.
All of that she could have said in about one sentence. Could have pared that down so much. I mean, she just put in all those fluff words and all
By
of
just
that.
saying this is weather?
Yeah.
This is weather?
It's just, oh my God.
Welcome to weather.
And some people would think that was brilliant what they just heard
yeah.
from her.
Oh, yeah. Do you like how she says whether it's really rainy or really dry? That's all climate change.
Yeah.
It's all man-made climate change that we, as insects on this planet, can somehow affect.
So you can't lose now. It's either
Yeah.
if it's too cold, it's climate change. If it's too hot, it's climate change. If it's raining, flooding, it's climate change.
All of
If
it.
it's drought, it's climate change. Meteors are hitting the planet, it's climate change.
M&Ms can't have them.
M&Ms can't have.
It's climate
climate
change.
change.
So what was wrong with the shoes, Katie, with the M&Ms? Were they stilettos or something? Or
so-
why were they a problem?
If you guys will indulge me, this will take just one short minute. I have to
for it.
read you
Okay.
the message from M&M's.
Oh,
the
this is
personal
from
message.
Mars Candy itself. Okay.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about, go back to the podcast and listen to what we talked about with Susie Moore. M&Ms are now not going. The spokes candies are not going to exist anymore. Maya Rudolph is taking their place.
Who is Maya Rudolph? I didn't want to
She
sound
was
mean. I don't
Saturday
know who
Night
she
Live.
She's great. She's
very
hilarious.
funny.
She's
Okay.
great, and she's not really someone that I think gets in the political arena,
Okay.
which I love
Maybe
even
I'll
more.
look her up while you're talking.
This is what the message from M&M's. America, let's talk. In the last year, we've made some changes to our beloved spokes candies. We weren't sure if anyone would even notice, and we definitely didn't think it would break the internet. But now we get it. Even a candy's shoes can be polarizing, which is the last thing M&M's wanted since we're all about bringing people together. Therefore, we have decided to take an indefinite pause from the spokes candies. In their place, we are proud to introduce a spokesperson America can agree on, the beloved Maya Rudolph. We are confident Mrs. Rudolph will champion the power of fun to create a world where everyone feels they belong. So they were upset because, there are boy M&M looking candies and there are girl M&M looking candies.
Ish.
It's not, they're all M&Ms, but the girls had heels and like bigger lips.
The boys had sneakers.
And the boys had sneakers and they had a different kind of facial feature. What in the world, what kind of time do you have in your day to be pissed off about that? What kind of time do you have an energy that you are willing to give to the M&M's candy?
Yeah. I just looked her up. She is the daughter of the late great R&B singer Minnie Riperton, who died at a very young age, at about 77, 78, I think, of cancer or something. But okay, Minnie Riperton's daughter.
She's great.
Yeah, and she's mixed heritage, because I remember Minnie Riperton was, and this was kind of scandalous back then. She was married to a white guy and had him all on her album covers and stuff. And this is the late 70s. So,
Maya's great. I have no issue with her.
Didn't she do a really funny movie recently with someone from SNL as well? Wasn't there? I thought there was two, her and another
Oh,
cast
she did
member.
Bridesmaids?
Bridesmaids.
And that was phenomenal.
Which is kind of a chick flick, but is funny.
Oh, it is so good.
I saw parts of it. So listen to this opening line from Entrepreneur Magazine talking about this. So funny. In times of mass layoffs across industries, it seems that no one is safe, not even animated talking candies. I mean, this is what we've come down to.
Ridiculous.
It really is. Apparently, we may have a caller who's chiming in on this. We'll see in a second. So there we go, Chris. We can't even. I guess the M&Ms go the way of what was the frog, the Budweiser frogs, which that was before the whole woke thing. But
and it really surprises me because I had seen something from business groups that were saying that they were going to be less focus on social issues and get back to actually selling products and services, because they've seen over the years how it's hurt them trying to be involved in that arena. And I guess Mars, M&M's didn't get that memo.
Apparently, the candies were, at one point, years ago, they definitely had different genders and attitudes and personalities.
They did.
And then that became a problem, I guess. So then they tried to wokeify the candies.
Yes.
And that was a huge mistake because they didn't make them woke enough, or they made them too woke or something. So they just gave up. They just gave up and said no more candies.
Caller Matt just called back and said that another issue with the candies was that people were upset that it was primary male candies and not enough female representation with the M&Ms. So they were going to do a revamp campaign apparently and take out all of the male candies and put just the female M&Ms on like the cover of the bags and stuff like that as well.
And then you do that, you're eventually going to have transgender M&Ms and.
But that's what I think. All of it is based upon this idea that the candy shouldn't be male or female, and I'm like, it's a joke. It's a joke. It's not. I mean, I guess it makes it good. It's good for us because we can sit here and be like, this is absolute insanity. But this is why comedy needs to be back in full force, and everybody just says, I don't give a crap anymore. I'm going to do what I want in comedy.
Because I think about the shows that I watched growing up as a kid, like All in the Family and the Jeffersons and Maude, and you couldn't have those shows today. They'd be totally politically incorrect. They'd be canceled.
But what's sad, Chris, is that 7 short years ago, it was still we weren't where we are today. Yeah. 10 years ago, I was in high school. None of these kinds of debates were happening. None of this chaos was going down. Sure, there was political correctness. Sure, people were stepping on each other's toes, and it probably caused an uproar. Mm-hmm. But it was nothing to the degree that
how
we're
much
in right
did
now.
Twitter and social media
Oh,
have to
yeah.
do with that?
And blow up.
Yeah.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
So sad.
Yeah, it is. That's the age in which we live, apparently. So there's. I wonder who's next, and the other thing I've noticed that's affected, because I just made a reference to the famous M&M Super Bowl commercial several years ago. It's like you expect things like the Super Bowl or other major events that are supposed to be entertaining to have entertaining commercials too. And nowadays, I wonder what all these corporations think that they're going to do to entertain people during these multi-million-dollar ad buys, right? Because they used to be kind of funny. Sometimes they were a little politically incorrect, but like now you got to be worried about offending anyone, anytime, for anything about any subject matter.
What I think we're going to see is a complete lack of creativity, and they're going to try to just recreate commercials that worked in the past that didn't offend anybody and that weren't PC. And they may work, and they're not going to offend anybody, but we're just going to see a lack of creativity, I think, which is going to see the quality of these commercials, I think, go down in the future.
What makes me sad is that, we can't have representation of gender on M&Ms and on candies, but we are totally okay with seeing Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B twerk for 25 minutes and basically do a strip dance at the Grammys. We've accepted as a society that that's women empowerment, but we can't have women and men on M&M candies representing gender.
That
doesn't make sense to me.
And I'm sorry, Lizzo's too big to be wearing the stuff that she does and twerking and stuff.
But even that.
Come on, girl. I mean, I'm all about big girls need love too.
You're all about them thick women need love.
That's a little too thick. She's just like, come on, girl, you look nasty.
It makes no sense to me. We're living in a very backward society.
Let us run the world, and the three of us will fix everything probably almost immediately. I think we would.
I think so, too.
But with a little dose of sanity and some good humor.
Exactly.
All right, gang. Monday in the can. But don't go anywhere, folks, because the Larry Connors USA Daily Report is next. Chris, Katie, and I will be back at 3:30 tomorrow on Tuesday out of the gates to preview the winter weather forecast, which is headed our way. Keep it right here for everything you need to know. The Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Back tomorrow at 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
For all the women listening right now, I want you to picture a financial advisor. What do you see? Now, you and your husband, you're meeting with said advisor. Who's he talking to? Him. That's the problem. Deanna Orff of the All Financial Group has seen this failure in the financial industry for years, and she's doing something about it. Join Deanna Wednesday, January 25th for an exclusive women's event called Women in Wealth. It's time to talk about your 401k, your business, and your concerns about retirement in a setting where you're heard and you don't feel uncomfortable asking questions. 92% of women say they want to know more about financial planning, and this could be a great first step. This Women in Wealth event that takes place on January 25th is free, but you do need to RSVP. Call 636-230-8824 or go to yourmoneymattersstl.com. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor. BWA and All Financial Group, LLC are separate companies.
The YMCA is just a starting line. For the true self blooms only when we find our purpose, what makes us tick below the surface. My why is diversity in unity.